Morning, everybody. Morning. My name is Kevin Fenzi. I'm the Fedora Infrastructure lead, and I'm going to be talking to you today about things we have going in infrastructure. Some statistics about kind of where we are now, how we're set up, and some short-term projects that we have that are imminent, and so a few longer-term projects that we're working on, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can get whatever it is that you're interested in infrastructure through our process, our resource process. Let's see. That's what I want to do. That's kind of what I went over. That's not really easy to read. Can you guys see that from the back of the spectrum? The blue is not too great there.
No, because it's a slide.
Yeah, okay, well, but I think that's maybe the only thing at that level.
Alright, don't use that.
Yes, this is the template from the wiki, so maybe need some updating. Okay, here's some statistics about what we have right now. We have about 460 instances, and I say about because we have a private cloud, and so we have things that spin up and down, especially copper builders appear, do builds and disappear. Scratch machines appear and disappear for whatever reason. But it's about 460 as of this morning. You can see a breakdown there of OS revisions that we have currently. You'll notice that we actually have about as many, well, almost as many Fedora 20 instances as we do RHEL 6 instances now. Can anyone guess what those instances are doing?
Koji builders.
Correct, yes. Our Koji builders are all Fedora 20. So that's all our ARM builders, of which there are a lot. Some build VMs, some build hardware, etc., etc. So that's a lot of Fedora 20 stuff. We also have some Fedora 20 stuff in the QA section with the Taskatron stuff.
Yeah, all of our stuff is Fedora 20.
Yep. We've been moving things to RHEL 7 pretty rapidly. We got kind of the initial image that we're using set up a few weeks ago, and then we've been moving hosts to that. As you can see, we have about 46 moved over right now. I'm hoping that we can move most of the RHEL 6 stuff to 7 by the end of the year. There's a few things that are going to be difficult to do for whatever reason, but the vast majority of them are running just fine on 7 so far. A little bit of statistics about SE Linux there. We have been trying to deploy all our new machines with enforcing. This was not really the case in the past when we had our infrastructure and some of our older Rel 6 hosts were not enforcing, but we've been trying to make sure they have been. And you can see now we're ahead on enforcing. There are 2 machines where it says disabled, which is curious, and I gathered the statistic and I went, where did we disable things? One of them is the machine that builds the Fedora Atomic OS tree stuff, and there's a bug outstanding where they need SE Linux disabled in order to do some certain part of their compose, and that's being worked on. I think it's probably going to be fixed relatively soon. And the other instance was a cloud instance where somebody was testing some item that needed SE Linux disabled while they were testing it. So for the most part, we're heading toward a pretty SE Linux enforcing world, which is good. Another statistic that's kind of easy to get is how many of our hosts are still in Puppet. We've been moving off of Puppet for the last year and a half or so. And we're getting down to the end. We have 79 hosts left in Puppet. Most of those have already, the thing they do has already been ported over. We just haven't gotten around to reinstalling that machine and moving it over to Ansible. So I expect that we're kind of on target to get this done this year as well, hopefully. And we have about 7 data centers right now. We picked up another one last year, year before. So we have a kind of a very distributed infrastructure. We have a lot of machines in our main data center, but we then have machines all over the place to handle load in various places. Yeah?
These are virtual instances. What's the host now, or the physical machine?
Yeah, I was going to get that, and then I didn't get around to it. It's probably in the neighborhood of maybe 30 to 40, something like that. Most of them in our main data center, but again, spread around. We try and do pretty much everything with virtual hosts, so we try never to run any kind of service or anything on the bare metal unless there's some really good reason to do that. Because virtuals are so much nicer that you can move them around, you can snapshot them easily, and just a lot of advantages to that. Any other questions on this stuff? Do feel free to chime in anytime if you have a question or a comment.
I would say 50.
Maybe.
Just counting the.
Yeah, we have all those VMs too. So, yeah. Okay, so here's a few short-term plans that we're working on. These are things that hopefully we'll be having done soon. As I mentioned, we're migrating over to Ansible. A lot of the machines that are left, we just need to get to reinstalling them and moving them over. But there are a few things left that we need to port over, in particular our proxy infrastructure. Right now, that's kind of the most complicated part of our infrastructure. We have proxy servers in each of our data centers, and using DNS and GeoIP, it will send contributors to the proxy that is nearest them. Then the proxy has Varnish running on it for caching, and HA proxy for talking to the backend host. Right now in Puppet, this is a big kind of snarled mess that's grown over the last 10 years. So that'll need to get sorted out in Ansible, but I think we'll have no trouble doing that. We just need to sit down and do it. I mentioned we're moving to Rel 7. We should hopefully be able to finish that before too long. It's helped to be able to do that while we've been doing Ansible, so we'll move to 7, get Ansible all working, make sure the application still works, and then migrate over to the new one. There weren't too many tweaks that we had to do to get our Rel 7 images set, because we were used to Fedora 20, and a lot of the knowledge moves over from there. So it actually didn't take, I think it took us maybe a week, or maybe a little less than that, to kind of figure out what we wanted to do option-wise, and how to configure them and so forth. But it was all relatively straightforward, and they've been working really, really well. Here's some more short-term plans. We're talking about deploying Bodhi 2. I don't know, how many of you went to the Bodhi 2 talk this one? Cool. We're talking about deploying that after F21 is out, and the initial bunch of updates right after release kind of trickles down a little bit. We talked about maybe doing it sooner than that, but we really didn't want to disrupt the release cycle more than it has been already. So we kind of pushed that off till after release. We still need to get it into staging, but I think the pieces are all there. We just need to sit down and get it all set up. I think what we'll probably do is once we do get it into staging, we'll probably ask maintainers to go look at it and see if they see any last minute issues or whatnot with it. Let's see. That's about it. This is a PackageDB team support is going to be, I think, very popular. We've Pierre just finished all the work on it. It's in production now, right? Yeah. So for a long time, it's been a request. Say you have a team of 10 people working on a group of packages, and you add a new team member. Well, that means you need to go in and you need to figure out all the packages your team works on, and you need to add them to every package, and you need to find the guy who has the approved ACLs on that one package, and it's very difficult to do from a logistics standpoint. The team support will basically allow us to have special groups in FAST that are team groups, and you can add your team members to that group, and you can add those groups to packages in PackageDB. So it's so much easier to manage. You get a new team member, you just add them to the group, and then they have commit on all the packages that they need to have commit on. This will be very useful for a lot of the SIGs, desktop teams, all kinds of people. So we have everything in place. We just need to do a little bit more testing with our test maintainer, and then we just need a couple of groups to help iron out any of the last stuff. I know the desktop or the workstation folks have been asking for this for as long as I've been around. So it'll be very nice to get. And I think this is pretty imminent. I'd say the next month or so, or even a few weeks, it's going to be out there.
Is there going to be a way to get a bunch of packages mass reassigned to a team, or do we have to
Yes.
forward a package?
Right. So yeah. So the question is there going to be a way to reassign a collection of packages to the teams initially so that you have the right number of packages? And yeah, we should be able to do that on the admin side, I would think, if we're with a request. Yep. Or the CLI should be able to do it. But once it's in place, then you just add people to that and everything's all set. Now teams cannot have approve ACL, they can only have commit. So you still need to, if you add a new package, you need to add the team, or somebody needs to have ACLs to be able to add and remove the teams from packages. But yeah, hopefully it'll be very helpful.
But that extension will rearrange how we do the packages, so it's just a team that's assigned by default?
So the question is, could we redo Proven Packager as a team, a Proven Packager team? It already is? All right. So I guess it already is. Implementation detail, but already is done.
Why can't we just give the team approved ACLs also?
Because that means that anyone in the team can actually remove the team.
Yeah, but
Which they probably wouldn't do, but it would cause disruption if they did. So. Any other questions on the package stuff?
I think that the team's problem to decide whether they want to let the team keeper approve ACLs or not. It should not be enforced by the software. I mean, even with people, you have to decide whether to trust them to approve ACLs or not. I don't see why we can't have the same with teams.
All right, so the question is the team's ACLs. Yeah, I mean, we can take a look at it and see, but there's definitely issues around that. But, we can certainly take a look at the policy. Okay, a couple more short-term plans that we wanted to touch on. Anitia, that's how you say it, right? I'm never going to get that name right. Anitia, which you probably, none of you have heard of. Anyone heard of this project outside our team? Yeah. Okay, so this is, used to be a thing called CNU or CNU Web was the product. And basically it's a release monitoring application. So right now we have a wiki page which you can add a upstream project to with a regular expression. A script runs through that and detects when there's a new upstream release, and then files a bug and saying, you know, there's a new upstream release of this package, updated if it's appropriate. This application is basically going to be a nicer version of that. It will have a web interface. It will hopefully be used by other distributions than Fedora, hopefully CentOS at least, and maybe other distributions that are interested in it. It's going to be at a site called releasemonitoring.org, and it will hopefully be able to track versions in those various distros, so it can say, you know, here's this new version, and that's a new version in CentOS. For CentOS, it's not a new version for Fedora, or it is, or it doesn't detect the versions currently. Okay, well, it'll see the new release and be able to handle that on the distribution side. This is mostly ready to deploy, I believe. So we're just getting around to the infrastructure side of things, spinning up instances, setting up the domain, installing the application, that kind of stuff.
Will it signal fed message?
I think it could, right? Signal fed message on an update. Well, the right. So yeah, it does. It sends on fed message, and then on the Fedora side, we would have something then that would pick up that and act on it. So file the bug, or you know, if somebody opted out and didn't want to be bothered by it.
Right. So I was actually thinking in terms of, I know I have several packages that release on a fairly regular basis that are just, you know, tiny bug fixes.
Right.
I would love to be able to register an application against fed message to just say, all right, kick off a code you built for me, I'll file it in volume instead of when I get to it.
Right.
Yeah, we should make that a big opt-in service.
Yeah.
We should make that an opt-in service for everybody.
Right. Yep. Okay, anything else on that one, or moving on to the next one? HyperKitty to production. We've been asking for it, we've been working on it, and hopefully it's going to make our lives better. We have, what's that? It will save the world, yes, that's indeed. So if you're not familiar with it, HyperKitty is the archive piece attached to Mailman 3, and it allows for nice things like, in addition to the normal stuff you would expect from archiving, posting from the web interface, up and down voting things, figuring out active mailing lists, getting statistics, all that kind of stuff. So it'll be great. We have actually all our production instances in place already. We have a test list in place that we've been using to test things out in production. And I think probably our next step is maybe a few more lists and just see if we run into anything. Then we'll probably move more lists, and then we'll probably come up to a cutoff date where we'll migrate everything else and just turn off the old one. So I'm really looking forward to getting this in. It'll be great. Another nice, fun little thing that Ralph has been working on, Bugzilla to Fed messages. This is all in place, but isn't working quite right yet, right? It's still not. Yeah. It's very, very close to the point where we will start getting Fed messages on Bugzilla changes. So we can do all kinds of things based on that. We can award badges for handling bugs. We can get statistics more easily. We can do all kinds of things based on that. So that'll be a very interesting one to get in place. In fact, that should hook into FMN, right? So it'll also hook into FMN. So if you wanted messages on IRC when there is a new bug, or you wanted messages on IRC when a bug on a particular package is closed or acted on, all kinds of things. So we'll make everything pretty flexible. Another quick little thing, this probably doesn't mean much to most of you, but we have the way our authentication system works is we have a client that pulls the data for the people who are allowed to log into that machine locally. And in the past, it's always been a cron job, so it runs every 10 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour or whatever it is. If you've ever been added to some group that logs into a machine, the person who adds you is like, oh, and that'll sync out in the next 30 minutes or something like that. We've been running into trouble with this. The thundering herd problem. We now have enough machines to where even randomized over 5 or 10 minutes, if they run every half hour, so many of them hit our server at the same time that it causes bizarre issues. So we're going to move this to Fed message enabled. It's going to listen for account messages. Is there any change that is pertinent to accessing these machines? If there is, then run. If not, don't do anything. It's going to save us a lot of traffic and a lot of issues. We may do this at a Hackfest this afternoon.
What about really high volume, like oil free?
Right, but if there's a Fed message that says somebody's been added to a group, or somebody's changed their SSH key, we can key off of those things. And even those are not very often.
Okay.
But yeah, it should be able to handle it. It'll just run more often there than anywhere else. So we may do this in a Hackfest this afternoon at 1. I'm not sure what room we'll be in, but go look for us. And anyone is welcome to join along.
Will you have a rate limit? Because when you have those moments where
Yes.
where we have to change everybody's SSH key, for example.
Right. We already have this. Actually, we're using this in our packages ACLs. So right now, if it's Fed message enabled, and if it sees ACLs change on a package, it knows to regenerate it on the server. But it doesn't just say, oh, there was an ACL change, I'll generate. It says, there was an ACL change, I'm going to wait for a minute or two and see if there are any more. And it will queue up, it'll intelligently queue up a number of them before it actually runs. So yeah, there definitely will have to be a rate limit on it. But yeah, it should work. We've been talking about, we have 2 applications that are getting kind of old at this point, Mirror Manager and FAST itself. Mirror Manager is written in TurboGears 1, and so is FAST, right? Yeah. So we're trying to move away from TurboGears 1. It's we're not going to maintain it for RHEL 7 machines, so we want to move those off. And we're talking about maybe organizing a FAD later this year and get the right people, Matt Domsch, the Mirror Manager author, and folks who've worked on FAST together and see if we can't port those over to a new framework and make sure they're clean and nice and do everything we need them to do. Of course, this is going to depend on timing and if we can get everybody involved, but I think it'll be very nice to get those moved out of there. Also, we're going to be upgrading the wiki probably next year. We're currently on a long-term release Media Wiki, and the Media Wiki Foundation is moving to a newer long-term release and retiring the old one. So 119 is going to go EOL. What month was it, Patrick? May. Yeah. So we're going to have to do that before then. There was some talk, or we thought maybe the community might want to use this chance to do something to the wiki. Right now our wiki is kind of a big mess. I know that the docs team has talked about archiving a whole bunch of stuff. So this may be an opportunity at that break to maybe set up a new instance and then copy over whatever we want, or organize it however we want, and then retire the old one and put the new one in place.
We scripted that when we did one immediately.
Exactly, yeah.
And I have a feeling in a few years we're gonna wind up with the exact same place.
It does. Wikis tend to do that. They tend to get tangled. One of the ideas that was floated or that people have seen, a lot of our wiki has no audience. It's like mixed in package maintainer information, packaging information, package information, end user information, documentation. It's like this big mass of stuff. It could be that we could organize those into categories better. That's something that we'll probably want to discuss all on the lists and see what work people actually want to do here. It may be that people don't want to do anything and we'll just copy the whole thing over the way it is.
I think we would lose a lot of user information if we try to redo things from scratch. I mean, surely there is also a lot of things that you usually recognize it, and people even put the warning stuff on it that is old. And even then, it can still be useful for historical reference.
Sure.
Because some of it still applies. And there's also a lot of stuff that is still current and that we just get lost if we do it.
Yeah. So the observation was that we're going to lose a lot of information if we do that, and history and things that could still be useful. And yeah, you're absolutely right. But that said, like the docs folks were talking about finding all pages that hadn't been accessed in a year at all, even by people, and archiving those. So maybe that at least would be something we'd want to do. Anyway, that's a discussion for mailing lists, but I thought I'd bring it up here for people to think about. Okay, we move on to longer term plans. I'd like to improve our Ansible automation. We have some now, we don't have a whole lot. We need to reorganize some things because when we started out making our playbooks, we weren't using the best practices in some cases. We need to clean up tags. We've been kind of all over the map with tags. More reporting would be nice, like if something gets out of sync with the Ansible side of things. And those are just things we need to look into. Also, we're looking at upgrading our cloud. It desperately needs it. Our current Fedora private cloud is a Folsom instance. If those of you who know OpenStack know that that's a while ago.
Ancient history, I think.
Yes, it is ancient history. And we've been having problems with it. So one of our prime uses of that cloud is copper, and we really need to get that to be more stable. So hopefully this won't be too much longer. We're working on the networking side of things to get everything working. Once we have our new setup up and running, we're going to migrate everything to the old one and then move all the old one over as compute nodes on the new one so that we have the capacity to do stuff. So.
Hey Kevin?
Yeah.
Quick question about that. So the current one, is that based on, that predates like RDO?
Yeah, that was before RDO existed, yep.
Is this is the new one gonna be RDO and like, is the current one on Fedora or one of the RHELs?
The current one is on RHEL 6. I think we installed it from the old Apple packages maybe. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, but the new one will be on 7 and it's using PackStack, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully more maintainable and long-term usable. One of the things we haven't really done with our current cloud, and I don't know how other people are handling this, but I'd like to do more like maintenance windows where we reboot everything and spin up instances again and make sure that everything is in Ansible, or the people who are using it are prepared to spin up their instances again and have their setup all right. And that should be relatively easy to do. Also, we've been thinking that for QA uses, we may start using the cloud for disposable builder instances. So lots of cloud things. Cloud.
Docket.
Oh, I'm behind. Oh, no. Some more longer-term plans. We've talked about rolling two-factor authentication out into our web applications. There's some issues around that. We're still kind of looking at the implementation and what we want to do. Plus, there's always, say we rolled it out even for packagers, the problem then becomes there are going to be some people who do not have access to a smartphone or a YubiKey or something like that. So what do we do for those folks? Do we get them a YubiKey? Do we allow them a software token of some kind or something like that? We don't want to leave somebody out just because they can't handle the infrastructure. But this is something that we'd like to do down the road because it definitely adds to the security things. And it'll probably be on a per application basis. So some more sensitive applications might require a second factor, whereas others might not, just depending. There's some discussion started on our infrastructure list about this. If folks want to read it and chime in and let us know what needs you have for that. But we're going to have to be careful, but it is a long-term goal. Lots more Fed message enablement is another goal. There's lots of places in our infrastructure still where we can take advantage of Fed message, replace a cron job with a trigger that just runs when it needs to. All kinds of hooks and places that we can use Fed message where we're not at this point. Finally, we're talking about Python 3 or looking at Python 3. We know that it's not going to be imminent, but it is on the way, and we would like to move to it and not be surprised. So sometime in the next few years, we're going to start looking at, building up the packages we need to do that and porting our applications over and seeing what pain points we run into. So we still haven't decided all the logistics of that, but it would be nice to get that moving. Python 3 is definitely coming. So, a few comments on things beyond that. We have a process called RFR, Request for Resources, that we use. Say you come up with you're a maintainer of or a contributor to some application, and you say, hey, Fedora could really run one of these and it would be great, it would add a lot of use value. We have a process where you can basically come in and say, here, I need these resources, will you help me walk this through the process of an application to deploy something we support. The process right now is pretty long and involved, I will say up front, and it's kind of deliberately so. We have run into situations in the past where good intentions, a number of people show up, here's an application, we're going to run it, it'll be great, it'll add value to everybody, and then one by one they sort of disappear, and then 3 a.m. I get a page that says the thing's down, and I have to figure out how it works, and so we want to stick to things that we know and can support, and that the team as a whole is able to figure out how to debug and manage. This is certainly very possible. The last one, a good example of this, or actually a typical example of this, I should say, is our Ask site. It uses AskBlock. There was a number of folks who came to us and said, this would be good value for Fedora to have an Ask site and help documentation and help users get questions answered. And they walked all the way through the process. They got a package. There was a group of them. They went through staging. They got monitoring added. They got SOPs added for standard procedures, and then got it deployed. Unfortunately, as so often, we're running into the same thing where some of those people over time aren't as involved, and then we have to look at AskBlock and try to figure out how it works. But I think it definitely has added value, and it's definitely, there's a way for you to get a specific application in place if you go through the process. We're of course open to ideas and improvements, anytime, suggestions, track tickets, mailing list, IRC, you name it, we're happy to hear any ideas. We also have an apprentice program if you're interested in the system inside of things. We have an apprentice group that has access to a lot of our machines and read-only access to our repositories. So if you're new to SysMin, you want to get some experience, or you're interested in how things work, you can ask to be added to that group, and then you can log into machines or look at our Puppet repo. Our Ansible repo is 100% public, so anyone can look at that. But we've had some pretty good successes with that over the years. Folks that join the apprentice program and then work on something and fix a few things and get added to another group and then fix more things and on, getting more involved. So I think it's been a pretty nice program for us. Kind of related to the apprentice program, we set up a thing. How many of you here are familiar with EasyFix? Anyone? A few people. So we set up a very simple application that scrapes all of the track projects, and it can do Mozilla, and I think it can do GitHub now? Yeah. So basically, as a owner of a project, you can add it to this, and you tag tickets that are good for newcomers with EasyFix. So related to our apprentice program, when an apprentice comes in, often people are like, well, what do I work on? What do you want me to fix? Well, look over here. There's a whole bunch of things marked EasyFix. Pick one that looks interesting to you. Dive in, figure out what the problem is and how to fix it. And I think that's been very useful as well, at least from our side, to get people involved. So that's kind of what I had. Any general questions or comments or whatnot? Yes?
Reporting fast overspill to infrastructure, it's not required to rewrite. Any chance whatsoever getting a lot of reverse support in there?
I don't know that. But yes, that may be possible at some point, yeah. It will definitely be a complete rewrite from Turbogears to Flask.
That's just a web interface, the underlying
Well,
components are a little bit more than just Turbogears.
Sure, but they'll have to be rewritten too, or at least heavily modified. So yeah, that will be the time to add feature requests and get that kind of thing in, definitely.
If I fix some EasyFix ticket in domain which I'm not so familiar, for example in the Fed messaging rules, which affects a lot of machines or some other machine which I'm not so familiar, what's the best process? Should I put the patch into the ticket?
Yes. Yeah. If
somebody will review it.
Yep. If you come up with a patch for an EasyFix, at least from the infrastructure side, if you're in the apprentice program, apprentices can read lots of stuff, but they don't have any commit access. So yeah, you would attach the patch to the ticket, whatever it is. There's a peculiarity with track, which annoys me million. If you just add an attachment of like a patch or something like that, it does not mail that the thing changed. So it's very annoying. But anyway, if you do add a patch, add a comment that says, here's a patch.
That might be an easy fix.
It might be.
And it might already be an attachment with a patch.
It might. I wouldn't know. Exactly. Anyone else? Other items? Yes.
I have a slightly related question. Have you been thinking about deploying GitLab instance or something like that?
We've talked about that a number of times. One of the first requirements for our RFR process is packaged and enabled. And there's been a lot of work on that. It's not done yet, but I think it may actually be getting toward the end. There's a lot of gems involved. I don't remember the count, but it's very high. But there has been somebody who has been working through packaging all those gems and getting it set up. So,
We didn't hear the question.
oh, sorry, GitLab. So, yeah, once it's packaged, we would take a look and see. The part of the problem with that is it's Ruby and Ruby on Rails, which is fine, but none of us are versed in that. So then we run into the same problem we run into with some other applications that we don't know how to manage as well.
You might already have a quick fix from Pierre. Okay.
Right. ProGet may also be a better alternative, since it's Flask, Python, and whatnot.
And I think I know the answer, but I'll ask the question just for the sake of discussion. Has there been much, do we know what the future of Fedora Hosted is going to be? Whether or not we're going to keep with the whole Git, or the standalone Git track, or whether or not we want to do GitLab?
We've talked about it. Yeah, we've talked about
directions?
it. And I think pretty much everyone agrees that the current setup is not really very good. A lot of things use it just for track, so just for tickets, and a lot of things use it just for Git and nothing else. ProGit may be an alternative for a lot of those. From the Git, from that side, from the ticketing side, I don't know.
RT. Well, I think at one point in time we were talking about trying to do the multi-instance of Fabricator. That had been, let me rephrase it, I had mentioned that was a possibility.
Yeah, Fabricator is another option. I've looked at it in the sense of looking at your instance of it,
yeah.
but I haven't gone beyond that. There was some problem with packaging it, or
I haven't done it. They bundle a couple of things.
Okay, but it's not
I think we're getting off in the woods for
Yeah.
the question I was intending to ask. I'm happy to talk about it, but
Right.
I don't think it's not packageable. It's just going to take some time.
So really the answer to that question is we don't know. There hasn't been anything that has come along that is better enough for us to say, oh, we're going to just do this. Fabricator maybe, ProGet maybe, GitLab maybe, but it's just none of those have really been like, oh yes, we must go to this immediately. So we've kind of been limping on the current setup. But yeah, we definitely are open to having that discussion and looking at Fabricator again and whatnot. Anything else?
Can you talk about command since we kind of want to take some of that functionality out of package DB?
Yes, so how many people here are familiar with or are using Fedora messaging in? Fed message notification service. You know, a few people. So basically we set this up a while ago and it's kind of more hooked into things now. But instead of package DB mailing you every time something changes, or packages mailing you every time something changes, all these things are going to stop sending their emails, and this service basically listens to our Fed message bus for those activities. So somebody, ACL changed in this package. All right, who cares about that? Oh, this person cares and they want an email, so I'll email them. This person cares and they want an IRC private message. So you can customize, there's a website you can log into, you can customize exactly what it sends you. So if there are things you don't care about, you can tell it, don't send me these things. If there's things you want IRC, if there's things you want email, and shortly or hopefully soon, Android app as well. So that really allows us to not have all these applications sending their own emails, and users to be able to go to a central place and specify exactly what they want. In package DB2, does it now, or we're switching it?
We're still sending emails.
Right, it's still sending emails right now, but we would like to get it out of that business. Right. So at some point, we're going to start moving things to just using this service. And there'll be a default, which roughly matches whatever emails you're getting sent now. But as you know, there's a lot of emails.
And one of the big things about using this is that it lets us queue notifications.
Yeah.
And so instead of getting, if you've ever, changed ACLs in package DB and then got 20 email messages from that, if we are able to turn off the package DB portion and just go through FMN and everyone has FMN configured to sending stuff, when you do that, you'll get one email that has all of those messages in it instead of 20 separate emails.
Right. Yep. everybody will want a console.
So and it's more like 500.
Yeah. A lot of emails. Yeah. Anything else, anyone? Yes?
Would Fedora moving away from Yarn, is this something that affects you and your tools heavily? Are you planning for that?
Well, I don't know that. It depends on in what context. You mean like to atomic type stuff or just whatever? Yeah. We're pretty heavily invested in RHEL and Fedora and how those sort of things get managed, but we're also adaptable. So if something changed along those lines, yeah. Anything? Anyone? Going once? Going twice? All right, thanks.